but yet at the same time, the only limitations that you have mentally, emotionally, and spiritually are those that you lay upon yourself. So if you want to explore your past lives, you are more than welcome to do so. You have guides, and you have angels, and you have guardians, and you have teachers that are all constantly around you and at your access. But again, you have to ask for the help, okay, because they will help you to a certain degree. Now, we are each here, of course, to do our own work and to excel upon completing whatever it is we're here to do. And once that is completed, then, of course, we go home to the I Am, God, Goddess, creator of all, etc., etc. I mean, we can create many names, but the key thing is that we are all observing a force and a power that is far beyond our abilities, and that source in turn is that created us all and remains as the creator within us all. And so, I deeply and sincerely appreciate Christ, both from past life experience as well as experiences in the here and now. I was visited with him or by him in a group setting when I was 19, and each of the parties, there was about 20 of us physically there at the time at a drop-in center for youth that was, we provided counseling to youth at the time for Grace House, and the Christ presence came, and it was a great light that shone in the middle of the group, and then his physical presence was seen from the aspect being that he was not physically completely manifested there among us. Rather, his physical self could be readily identified energetically as being there with us. And he in turn approached each in the group and blessed them. And he in turn advised me that I would undergo what you would call spiritual transformation and a cleansing process, or a trial process of all the four elements, and then, of course, the completion being with spirit. So again, you're talking earth, air, fire, and water, and then, of course, the fifth element, spirit. And this went on for probably about 3 years, roughly speaking, at the conclusion of which, then, of course, I was gifted with a empathic understanding of the energy of others. So as to even to this day, I can read other people's energies. And again, we are all electrical beings. We are 80% water, and then, of course, we have a bone mass, and we have a brain that is very, very electrical. And so we create an electromagnetic field around us, which is our aura, and we also have chakras, or energy centers, all throughout the body. There are 2 at your feet. There are 2 more in your hands. And then in addition to that, there are the 7 that are commonly utilized by the yogis and practiced in yogic teaching. And then in addition to that, there are 3 more. So in total, you actually have 15 chakras. And the 15th chakra completely connects you to the source of all. So I won't go into all the in-depth teachings and things in reference to that, but needless to say, by the time you get to your 15th chakra, you would then be in a position, if you were able to maintain that consciousness, to bring the consciousness of your spirit and merge it with the consciousness of your physical self, and then you would have Christ consciousness with you always, in a sense that Christ himself experienced. Now, that is not to say that I would claim to be the Son of God, even though, in a manner of speaking, we are all sons and daughters of God, and we have always been and shall always be, and there has never, ever been any separation. And so when it comes to our star families, this is the same truth. We have never, ever truly been separated from whence we came, or the heavens from which we have come, because we have most likely a very vivid history of having transited in other lives, in other civilizations, in other galaxies, in other universes, or perhaps in another cosmos. Who is to say? And I mean, you see, unfortunately, when it comes to God, it is a thing of faith. So therefore, who is to claim that their faith and their faith alone, or their path or tradition alone, is the only way? They cannot do so. The reason being that if this were true, we wouldn't have the hundreds of religions and the hundreds of traditions. And the thing of it is, and the point is, that they all lead to the same place. And that is going back to our existence as pure energy consciousness without having to inhabit a physical self. And this is where all paths lead, because this is where we all came from. Now, whether we transit from here directly to the other side, which is sort of a presumption, from the aspect being that I do believe that when we die, which there is no death, the word death means nothing but change, okay? So when we change energetically, in other words, when our spirit has left this physical body, and this body is absolutely dead, the heart has stopped, the brain no longer functions, we do transit to the seventh dimension. Now, in the seventh dimension, of course, we greet all of those that have passed before us. You will meet family members. You will meet loved ones. You will meet friends. You will meet all teachers. You will meet all kinds of persons of interest that you looked up to or had deep connection with while you were alive here on the earth. Okay? Then in turn, from that point, you then determine where you need to go next. Do you need to come back to the earth for another life to enhance certain experiences, or perhaps to unravel other things that have happened in previous lives? Who is to say? That's just between you and God, because God is the absolute advisor on all that is the highest good for all of us, okay? So maybe perhaps you don't need to come back to earth, which is my belief and my personal experience. I believe that I have finally gotten to the end of experiencing all of the lives that I need to have here, and I am ready to transit on either to another family of beings that exist on another planet in perhaps another galaxy or perhaps another universe. And I will transit to them and be with them, even as I am doing so at the present moment. Like I said, we are not limited to the bodies and existences that we can have at any given time. However, they must be useful, they must be balanced, and the information goes to what we would call, or what I like to term, your higher self or your spiritual essence. So your spiritual essence has all of the knowledge and all of the answers to any questions and all of the information that you would ever want to know, because your spiritual essence exists probably in whatever dimension you happen to exist in before you actually incarnated upon this planet. Now, I personally, from what I understand and from what I've been told and shown and so forth by avatars and ascended masters and Christ and numerous other deity or deities, that I originated from the 16th dimension. Now, who's to say that that's true, because I in no way possible can prove that to you, just as I can no more prove the existence of God or prove the existence of the devil. Why? Because they are manifested in different dimensions, and those dimensions do not connect readily with the 3D world. Now, of course, Christ demonstrated that he could create miracles, in the fact being that he could raise the dead. When he rose Lazarus from the dead, it was a fact of calling Lazarus' spirit or his spirit essence back into the body of Lazarus. Now, as a spiritual essence, as directly acting as the Son of God in all knowingness and in all facets of divine being or existence, as bringing down whatever dimension that happens to reside with, okay, into his physical incarnation, then yes, that was not a problem at all. He could also heal instantly. He could heal the sick and cure the blind, excuse me, and create many more miracles that are all told about in the Bible. Now, yes, I personally am of Christian faith or was raised Christian. However, as a theologian, I have studied pretty much all of the religions of the world, all of the traditions. As an occultist or a mage, I have studied all the traditions and all of the initiatory practices in all of the various initiatory paths around the world to a large extent. I have not accomplished all of them by far because there are way too many of them. As a shaman, I have only traveled 3 shamanic paths. But there's a great deal of information that is all being held in the Vatican, in the basement of the Vatican, because they have acquired numerous manuscripts and numerous books and so forth, and these are guarded in certain ways. And of course, I don't know whether they will ever be shared with the public or not. But if you go back and you look at the history of the popes, you will find that there were 3 popes that were actual magicians and practiced magic, even though they were popes at the time. So this validates that they have such knowledge. But anyway, I'm not pointing fingers at any one given religion or anything of that nature, simply because, again, your tradition and your faith and your belief were given you, whether you were brought up with them or whether you acquired them through marriage or whether you acquired them through the introduction by someone that you happen to love or someone that you held in high esteem and so forth. They are all correct. There is nothing that is wrong other than, of course, when it comes to harming others, because that's just the grand law. You know, you are to love yourself, and then in turn, you are to love yourself and love others as you love yourself and do no harm to anyone. And of course, you know, there are all kinds of hierarchies of angels. There's all kinds of hierarchies of other beings. There are ascended masters. There are guides. There are teachers. The majority of most have already spent lives here on earth, like Saint Germain, who is the possessor of the violet flame, which is the flame of transformation and transmutation. And again, if you ask for his spiritual guidance and his spiritual help, he will help you in regards to you overcoming anything that you are holding on to that you should not be holding on to, whether it be trapped emotions, whether it be trapped experiences or trauma, whatever it happens to be, he will help you to cleanse it from yourself. Because the negative energy that we hold on to, in turn, if it's kept long enough, can turn into disease in the body, which dis-ease is naturally disease, because it's an unease within the spirit, and therefore if it's held on to long enough, this in turn becomes a disease in the body. So by unraveling the disease, in other words, you must pinpoint in your life's history the trauma or whatever it was that created this uneasiness within yourself, within all of the various facets and all of the various levels of your being. I would say probably the easiest way to look at a person would be to focus upon them as a diamond, okay? Why? Because that is how many facets we have to our, not only our personality, but also dimensionally. So if you look upon the facets of a diamond, and then one of the facets happens to go dark, then in turn the diamond itself is no longer clear, so it no longer radiates, in essence, the energy that is passing, or the light waves that are passing through the diamond. Instead, part of the waves get bent around this darkness. So the key would be to remove the darkness within the diamond, so that in turn the diamond radiates pure light. And now, of course, there are also many other teachings. I mean, we have several bodies. From what I understand, at least 5 of them. You have a mental body, an emotional body, a physical body, of course, and then in turn you also have a body of light and a body of purity, or what you would call a diamond form. And I think the diamond body, of course, at this point in time in our evolution, is where we are all radiating or transiting towards. And you have to understand that, again, without judgment, we are all equals, okay? So no one is any more right than the other. No one is any more knowledgeable than another. We are all equals, and we need to treat and respect each other as equals. And again, this is a lesson that we are learning as a race, because we have been divided since the creation of mankind. But of course, you know, I have lived in Atlantis. I have lived in Lemuria. I have lived in Egypt several times, and I have been physical and I have been non-physical, from the aspect being that I could energetically release myself from a physical presence at any given moment, and in turn recreate a physical self to inhabit in any given moment. So therefore,